Hello, and welcome to the Confessions of a Christian Single Woman community, where you will be empowered to propel in all aspects of your purpose, and no sister is left behind. Sit back and relax, grab your journal and pen, pour you a cup of coffee or tea, and go on this journey to self discovery and growth in the Lord. Hello, Purpose Propellers, and welcome back for another week and a new episode. I'm so glad that you are tuning in again today. And so we are still chatting about our topic, overcoming loneliness. I'm alone, but not lonely. And I hope that you are all caught up and that you really learned over the last 2 weeks the different types of loneliness, the biblical examples that we can learn from, because who knew that there were actual, people in the Bible who went through it and were able to give us examples of what they did and then learn how to overcome it. And so now that we know what the different types of loneliness are, right, I did want to dive into something else on the topic of loneliness, which are the causes, the actual causes of loneliness. Because oftentimes it's assumed, the assumption is made that, or other people may even assume about us, as single people, that because we may desire a relationship and we don't have one yet, then that automatically means we're lonely. And that's not always the case, right? So there are many different factors that can cause loneliness outside of being single, obviously. However, I do want to talk about a few that I believe really pertain to those of us who are single, just because of the type of society that we live in today, okay? Because this society is doing the most. If you have been living long enough, I know you looking and blinking and side-eyeing at society just like me. Like, what is this world coming to, right? So I don't want to belabor the point. Let's go ahead and dive right into the different causes of loneliness, okay? And so number one is unmet emotional needs. Unmet emotional needs. And so this really refers to the lack of or even inadequacy of emotional support that you could receive, of any type of validation and any type of understanding in relationships. And so if these particular needs aren't met, then you may end up experiencing feelings of loneliness, dissatisfaction, or even emotional distress, right? So having an unmet emotional need could cause you to be lonely, okay? And we can see this biblical example of the woman at the well in John chapter 14, verse 17 to 18a, where it says, "The woman answered and said to him, 'I have no husband.' Jesus said to her, 'You have correctly said, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband.'" And I just thought that this was so powerful because even though the Bible doesn't specifically say it, we can read, we can comprehend, right? We have reading comprehension. And so you can kind of read between the lines and see that this woman was in desperate search for true love, okay? And probably even wanted some real, true affection. Maybe she didn't have that because, as Jesus pointed out to her, she ended up having 5 husbands, and then the man that she was dealing with wasn't even her husband. So obviously there was a void. Obviously she had some issues, she probably had some issues with being alone. And then even during those times back in the Bible days, it was important for women to be married. Like, that was a thing. You had to be married. You had to produce your husband a son at least, and then daughters, right? So she probably felt some type of distress or even experienced ridicule from other married women, whenever she wasn't married. So she just quickly went from relationship to relationship. And so one could assume that she may have felt inadequate. She may have felt like she wasn't enough, which is why she gravitated so hard and so heavily to Jesus, I think. He was the man who could give her everything she was looking for and more, and she was able to discern that in that conversation with him. And so that is a part of being able to overcome, is recognizing what Jesus brings to your life and how he can satisfy those emotional needs, right? And so in order for that to even happen though, another way to overcome is by identifying your emotional needs. Have you even identified what you need specifically? Like, don't be vague, what do you need specifically as far as an emotional need? What do you require for that to be fulfilled? Are you able to actually articulate that to someone, what it looks like and what it feels like to you when your emotional needs are met, right? So how do you feel supported? It's not just enough for somebody to be like, oh, I support you, but how do they make you feel supported, right? So can you list them out? For example, some needs could be love. How do you want the person to love you? Another one could be an acceptance. How are they able to show you that they accept you for all of who you are? How do they show you empathy? How do they give you the validation? How do they, what kind of encouragement actually impacts you the most? Or, when it comes to companionship, how do all of these other ones that I just named factor in to the companionship, right? So I'll give you an example for me, because these are my confessions. For me, one of my big emotional needs is encouragement, because I am an exhorter by nature. Spiritually, that's one of my spiritual gifts, is exhortation. And so when it comes to exhortation, I can encourage you down, okay? Like up, down, make you feel like the best thing since sliced bread. I'm gonna throw some scripture in there, and I am the type, if you need somebody to boost you up, sis, that's me. Like, I'm gonna always boost you up, right? But on the flip side, I don't always receive that. I don't always receive the boosting up because of the fact that I don't have a lot of people in my life, to do a whole lot of boosting. But the ones that I do have, oh baby, they know how to boost me, okay? And so, when it comes to my family, like, I live a few hours away from them, but let me call them up and be like, hey, this is going on in my life. I don't know what to do, which way to go. Like, what do y'all think? And between my brother and my parents, oh, they gonna boost me and they gonna encourage me. They gonna build me up. They gonna talk to me. Same thing with my best friend. She gonna hear me out. She gonna hear everything I have to say without saying a peep. She just gonna look at me and nod her head. All right, I hear you. And then after I finish talking, boom, she go slam in. Sometimes she get me right together, and other times it's, and she gets me right together through her encouragement. And then other times it's just straight encouragement. And I really take that and I feed off of that. So even though I may not have, a whole big friends group and all this other stuff, I have another best friend who's like that as well. She boosts me up as well, and I pray I do the same for them. Like, if you need encouragement, I got you. And I know that if I need encouragement, I can go to them and they got me. So as far as my friendships are concerned, my emotional needs are met. As far as my family is concerned, my emotional needs are met. Now, when I get a significant other, that's going to be a different story, right? Because it's been a while since I've dated anybody. And so since it's been a while, that's something that I'm going to have to learn how to open myself up to that with him. And then he is going to have to learn, about me as far as, okay, yeah, I know she likes encouragement, but what else can I provide for her as far as her emotional needs outside of what anybody else can provide? Right? But I still need to be able to articulate that to him. I can't expect him to get it by osmosis. I can't keep my mouth closed and be like, well, he should know that I need him to do this. He should know that it don't work like that. Men are not mind readers. So they cannot know what it is that you need unless you have that honest conversation with them to tell them. So before that conversation can even happen, I have to be able to know what my needs are. And then I have to understand and be clear on how to articulate them to him. So it's the same thing. Identify your emotional needs so that you won't operate in unmet emotional needs, which could cause you to be lonely. Okay. Because I think sometimes too, it could even be residual effects. So you may feel like, oh, I'm lonely because I don't have a significant other, when you're really just lonely because you wanted somebody to be there for you when you were going through a hard situation and nobody knew you were going through that situation. And so now you're like, oh, well, if I would have had a significant other, then they would have known and I won't be lonely. When really all you had to do was just open yourself up to talk to somebody and say, hey, this is what's going on in my life. Can you help me? And then those feelings of loneliness of, wanting that significant other probably would have went away or would have lessened, because that wasn't the main reason on why you were feeling lonely. Right? So you have to be able to recognize when you have unmet emotional needs and then be able to articulate what those needs are and then share those out with those who you need to share them with so that they understand what's going on in your life. Amen. That blessed me. Okay. The number two cause of loneliness is technology. Okay. Technology use. So while technology is good, we are in the technological age, right? We can't right now, if technology was to go away, none of us would know how to live. Like, does anybody remember, having to print off your maps? Print off your GPS in order to get anywhere? Does anybody besides me remember that? Okay, what would we do without GPS, right? So having technology, can you imagine going back to buying CDs instead of now everybody just streams? Like, what would we do? Y'all, can you imagine going back to dial-up internet instead of just having Wi-Fi? Technology, it has come a long way, okay? So, but listen, okay, so while technology, right, is great, and now we can do things like online dating and finding good restaurants to go to and finding events and things to hang out with people at, meet new people and have new hobbies and things like that. Listen, if you use social media too much or rely heavily on like the digital media on stuff to communicate with folks, then this, believe it or not, could even contribute to feelings of loneliness. I know you probably like, what in the world? How? Okay. Because virtual interactions may not provide the same level of emotional intimacy and support as face-to-face interactions do. All right. And that's me. Like, that's me to a T. I am a face-to-face phone call girl. Being on social media all the time, I like to scroll, but having to do a lot with it can oftentimes be a little overwhelming for me. I prefer to get on the phone and talk. Like, I can tell you what I need and what I'm asking for and all of that in a good 10 minutes versus having to text out an entire paragraph. Like, it's a lot, right? So sometimes technology use can be a hindrance rather than something that's easier or even a blessing. Okay. When I tell you, I've almost lost friendships over text messages because the person couldn't read my tone. So, and vice versa. So it's like, you got to be careful with technology, but okay, I digress. Okay. So biblical example. And I know you're probably like, now wait a minute. How is there a biblical example when they didn't have technology in the Bible days? Listen, when I tell you the Bible got everything, it got everything, y'all. So we can see this example from Apostle John in 2 John verse 12. And this says, though I have much to write to you, I would rather not use paper and ink. Instead, I hope to come to you and talk face to face so that our joy may be complete. Y'all, when I saw that, I said, let me find out. Because back in the Bible days, the only thing they could do was write letters or walk. That was their technology. And even Apostle John says here in scripture, so he was writing to a woman who was at one of the churches, and he was writing to her and her family. And he was basically saying like, hey, all these great things have been happening. I have so much I want to tell you, but I think it would be better if we talk face to face, because if we do that, then our joy is complete. We will have joy at seeing one another and catching up, right? Versus just doing everything virtually with technology. So even though we do have this great means of technology, it can cause you to be lonely if you are using it more than you are using your in-person and face-to-face interactions. Okay? So think about that a bit. And, even an example of this for me, just today, just today, because I am putting this out a little bit late. So just today, I went and had a massage done, and I haven't seen my particular masseuse in a long time. It's been like 2 years since I've seen her, even though I was going to someone else in her shop, because she opened up 2 shops. So when she opened up 2 shops, she started working at the shop that was furthest away from me. But because I'm a loyal client, I still kept going to her shop. She just recommended another masseuse at the closest shop, the normal shop that I would go to, for me to continue to use to go there. And so now that she's back at the original shop, she called me to tell me, hey, Lamika, I'm back at the original shop. I just wanted to let you know. And I was like, great, I already have an appointment booked. And she was like, cool, I will take you. And so I get to the shop today and I see her, and we just literally played catch up. And I know that, a massage is supposed to be relaxing and all of that, but she literally talked the entire hour and a half, just catching me up on her life and how everything was going. And I was like, wow, and I can't get that virtually. I could have, but she's busy. She's a business owner, right? So I couldn't get that virtually, but I was able to get with her face to face. She hugged me when we saw each other. We was like, hey, it's been so long. How you doing? We caught up, and it was really nice. So having that connection face to face is how you overcome. That's a way to overcome. Okay. So try to prioritize interactions with your friends, with your family, even colleagues. Sometimes colleagues become family, and during that time, when you're with them, your phone should go on do not disturb. All right. Like, you should not be having full-fledged phone conversations while you're in the presence of, your family and friends and things like that. Turn your notifications off. That way you can give whoever you're with, your full and undivided attention. And, it may take you some getting used to be like, things gonna be all right if I don't have my notifications on. Now, I will caveat and say, if you got children, please keep your notifications on, because my parents always have their notifications on, and I'm grown. Like, I'm grown. My brother and his wife are grown, but let them turn their phone on silent and I'm fussing. Okay. So if you got kids, keep your notifications on. But if you don't, you can turn your notifications off for a few hours. Just enjoy that time, with the people that you love, because people love it when they can tell that you're truly making time for them and then creating a distraction-free space for them. I'm going to share this story. I was on a date with this guy who I really liked. I really liked this man. I really did. And in hindsight, I shouldn't have really liked him this much, but that was in my, insecurities and not really knowing the fullness of my worth. So I let a lot of things slide. And one of the things I let slide was, we were on a date, and the place that I picked, it was like a original Italian restaurant. Okay. They made all the pasta from scratch, the sauces from scratch. I mean, just delicious. And so we're there, but where they sat us was in front of a TV, and a football game was on. And so our food comes out, and I'm trying to talk to him, but he has his cell phone out and is watching the TV at the same time. And so I'm like, hello, I'm over here. Like, I'm trying to talk to you. And he's like, yeah, I'm listening. And so I'm asking him questions and he's engrossed in the TV trying to answer my questions. And I'm just like, this man is not paying me not a shred of attention. Like, he's so concerned about what's on this TV versus you're taking me out on a date that you asked me to go out on. You know, he asked me to pick the place because I have a particular diet. And so, but I still picked a place that him and I could both eat at. And I'm like, I done got dressed up. I got a full beat on, you know, face and makeup on. My hair is done. I'm cute. And I'm out here with you. And you're paying attention to the TV. And I'm like, bruh. And so there was a couple times I'd be like, hey, you know, I'm trying to ask you a question. It seems like you're more, you know, engrossed in the game. No, I'm not. I'm listening to you. I'm listening. What was your question? And so I got a bit annoyed with it, but because I liked him so much, I let it slide. Ask me if I'm gonna let that slide today. Okay? Because Lamika knows her worth and her value, and you will not be engrossed in something else other than me while we're on a date. Because when I was with him, I put my phone up. My you know, friend knew where I was, and then I put my phone up. So if I could do that, then why couldn't you, right? And so even though I was on a date, I still felt lonely. So you want to make sure that you are giving those you are with your undivided attention. All right. Okay. Number three, and this is actually the last one, y'all. So number 3 is cultural and societal factors can influence you feeling like you're lonely. And so this can happen, you know, if you are experiencing any type of social norms, anything dealing with the community, any of your interpersonal relationships. And this can affect it or influence it in ways that either help contain or fuel the fire of your loneliness. Okay. So anything happening culturally and anything happening in your part of society could help contribute to loneliness. All right. The biblical example of this we can see is Hannah, and we can see this in 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 6-7. And it says, her rival, moreover, would provoke her bitterly to irritate her because the Lord had closed her womb. And it happened year after year, as often as she went up to the house of the Lord, that she would provoke her. So she wept and would not eat. Okay, so just to give you some background in this passage, we see that Elkanah had 2 wives. Okay, he had Peninnah and he had Hannah. So Peninnah was able to bear Elkanah children, but Hannah's womb was closed, and it says that the Lord closed her womb, so she was barren. And then as a result, we could see the interpersonal struggle which played in the changes in the family structure, right? So in the definition of cultural and societal factors, anything happening in your family, community structures, or interpersonal relationships contribute to that type of loneliness. So here we see that the interpersonal relationship was at play, and it caused a change in the family structure. So when there are shifts in a family structure like that, then it created tension within the household. Okay. And so that was back then. So now, you know, when there are shifts in the family structure, such as, you know, divorce, because we see that a lot now in rising divorce rates, or if we see, you know, delayed childbearing, maybe you're married and, you know, you haven't been able to produce children when you wanted to or thought you could have, you know, it could impact feelings of loneliness. And so in Hannah's case, we see that it brought out bullying and distress for her, because Peninnah would bully her, would tease her, would provoke her, you know, basically like, nah, I can have children and you can't, you know, type of a thing. And so it created so much stress for her that she cried out to God all the time to give her a child. And so I'm sure, that even though she loved her husband, she also wanted to provide him a family. And I think even at one point, it kind of seemed like Elkanah asked her, well, aren't I enough? Like, why am I not enough? And she basically, in my paraphrase, was like, I love you, but I want children too, And so God, in his infinite just amazingness, remembered her, and he answered her prayer, and he opened her womb and gave her multiple children. She actually had multiple children. And so how is a way that you can overcome cultural and societal type of loneliness? I'm going to say something that I have said multiple times, but I think it bears repeating because I think it's so important. Of course, when we get married, it'll be important, but I think it's just extremely important while we're still single, and that's civic engagement and some type of volunteering. Okay. So get over you and get over how you feel and put your energy and time into serving others. All right. It'll help you to realize that you don't have it as bad as you think you do. If maybe you are single and you're believing God to get married and have a child. Okay, well, go volunteer to be a mentor to a child. That could help you learn how to gain wisdom to help a child in difficult situations when you're mentoring a child. I actually had the opportunity to do that a few years ago. I mentored a young lady who was getting ready to, who was in high school, and she was getting ready to, I think she had like a year or two before she had to go to college. And so I was her mentor to help her through her college application process, to help her through her scholarship process. We met up at the library and we would talk. She would tell me, all the limiting beliefs she had about herself. I was able to encourage her and build her up and, get her to apply for scholarships to colleges that she didn't even think would give her a second look. I had her to apply for scholarships to places that she didn't even think she would get scholarships for. And she would literally call me like every week and be like, I just got a scholarship to this. I just got a scholarship for this amount. I just got a scholarship for this. I just got accepted to these colleges. And so she was able to go exactly where she wanted to go and do exactly what she wanted to do with a mentor, right? And so it helped me, somebody who doesn't have any children, to mentor a high schooler to kind of help guide them and direct them in the way that they should go for college, right? And the Bible talks about that, guiding children in the way that they should go. And so, having that opportunity to do that was like, oh my gosh, that was just so cool. And now, I think she's graduated college now and has gone on to live her life, but just knowing that she will always remember me and she will always remember the impact that I had in her life is just priceless. And so, that's a way that you can volunteer and be able to pour into someone else, and knowing that you have done that should lessen kind of that bit of loneliness. Like, man, because for women, we have that nurturing spirit, right? We are the nurturers. And so when we don't have anyone to nurture and to care for, sometimes we can physically feel that. And that's where loneliness can really set in, because it's like, man, I don't have a significant other. And for those of us who don't have children, I don't have a significant other and I don't have children. Who can I nurture? Like, I have to get this out. And so that's where volunteering will come into place. It will give you a chance to nurture and to love on and to care for someone else. And I find that the more that I do that, the less I feel lonely. Do I want companionship of a husband? Yes. But is it like, where he at every day? No, I don't have that anymore. I used to, but I don't have that anymore, because now my energy goes to other things, right? And not solely just focusing on that. So try to find something like that. I'm going to always promote volunteerism. So if you get tired of hearing me say that, I'm not sorry. I was going to say I'm sorry, but no, I'm not, because I'm going to always promote that. And, for those who may be in my area, like I would love to do a volunteering day and we just go out and volunteer together. Like that would be awesome, So, y'all, we do not have to sit around and be lonely 24/7. It's just not. And I'm going to always harp and say it's not the will of the Lord for our lives. It's just, and I know it's not. So we have to make sure that, we, number one, know and recognize the types of loneliness, which we've already talked about. And now we need to know and understand the causes of loneliness and making sure that we are positioning ourselves in a way that we don't stay lonely for long. I'll put it that way, because I don't want it to seem like I'm saying that we should never be lonely. I'm not saying that one bit. Like that's the least of what I'm saying, because I understand that we absolutely will have times and bouts of loneliness. Okay. So I got that, but we should not stay lonely long. Don't stay lonely long. So, if you start to feel it creep up on you and you're like, man, I'm starting to feel lonely. Now you automatically need to be like, okay, what do I need to do to come out of this? Okay, let me find out what's the type. I know Lamika talked about types. Let me go figure out what type of loneliness this is. Okay, and let me see what caused it. Was it caused by societal pressures? Was it caused, by my technology use? Was it caused by any unmet emotional needs? Like, let me figure out where this is coming from. And then once we figure out where it's coming from, now let me get before the Lord and find out, what he needs me to do to address this. And then be obedient and address it. And then watch him move in your life to the point where then you'll be thinking to yourself, like me at times, man, it's been a long time since I've been lonely. I thought that not too long ago about myself, because while I'm studying this out to be able to share, God is always reflecting things on me. And I'm like, man, it's been a long time since I've said that I was lonely. But there are times when it comes up. When I'm sick, I feel lonely at times because I'm in the bed, can't move, and I have nobody else here to help me, right? So that could be a time where loneliness may be brought on, or anything, or any other ways that it could be brought on. Maybe it's like, oh, I would love to go to the movies with, a significant other, but I'm going to go by myself and spend time with myself and, love myself. Oh man, it sure would be nice to be taken out on a date. Well, you know what? I'll take myself out on a date. Since I feel like I want to go on one, I'll take myself out. You never know who you might meet while you're out there, right? So there are ways that you can encourage yourself and build yourself up. I think that sometimes we just allow ourselves to wallow and, feel bad and woe is me and stay there and grab your ice cream and your popcorn and your chocolate and all that and stuff your face and just be like, oh man, I don't have nobody. Nope. Because as long as you listen to me, you ain't gonna get that from me. I'm sorry. Well, no, I'm not sorry. Because what I'm gonna tell you is get up, go get in the shower, go get dressed, and go find you something to do. Okay. And even if you don't want to get out of the house and go find you something to do, you can find you something to do in the house. Is there a business you want to start? Go ahead and start doing some research. Do you want to start a podcast? Go ahead and start one up. It's real easy to do. I don't know, like whatever it is that you want to do, you can figure it out. Okay. You don't have to sit around and just be lonely just cause. There is more to life than being in a relationship. Do we want one? Yes. Do I fully believe and trust God that he's going to bring one for me? Absolutely. But I'm pretty sure that the Lord does not want me wasting away and not fulfilling my purpose because I'm waiting on a man. I don't think it works like that. I don't think that when I get to heaven and I have to stand before the Lord and he plays my life back, and then he says, how come you didn't do X, Y, and Z? And I say, oh Lord, because I was waiting on you to bring me my husband. That's not an excuse. He gonna look at me like I'm crazy. Like, what does that have to do with anything? This is what I told you to do. So why didn't you do what I told you to do? You waiting on somebody else ain't gonna cut it. So I'm saying, sis, if you are feeling feelings of you like you are lonely and you are wallowing, get up, go wash your face, go take a good shower, clean yourself up, gird yourself up with encouragement and the word of the Lord, and go on about your business. And let God handle and take care of the rest. Because like I said on the previous 2 episodes, he is always with us. And we have to stop discounting him. We have to stop acting like what he thinks and what he feels doesn't matter. All of that matters, and all of that should be at the forefront. We should be so focused on how can I make sure that I am not displeasing God today? And how can I make sure that I am doing what he needs me to do today? When you're of that mindset, you don't even have time to focus on being lonely, because it's like, oh, okay, God, all right, I know you want it. Okay, so I know that I have this on my list. I have this on my list. I have this on my list. I got that on my list. Okay, which one of these do you want me to do today? Okay, you want me to do that one? Okay, great. I'm going to focus on that today. While you're so much focusing on your purpose and what the Lord wants you to do, you know, being lonely should be the furthest from your mind. You should just be like, whew, okay, I done had a long day. I'm going to give me my dinner, and now I need to prepare for the next day and go to sleep because I'm tired, right? Because you're working, you're serving, you're building, you're doing, and you're not just wallowing. All right. So once you understand the types of loneliness, and then once you understand the cause, now you can take some action and say, now, God, how do I get through this? And he will show you the way. So I hope that was helpful for you today. And I hope that, you know, sheds just a different light on some of the causes of loneliness, and that, you know, you're more aware now and you're more empowered to overcome whenever you're faced with it. So like I said, at the end of the day, we don't have no time to be lonely, okay? But rather, we have all the time to live purpose-filled lives full of joy, peace, and love in the Lord. So thank you for listening to the Confessions of a Christian Single Woman podcast. Remember, ladies, that God loves you immensely. There are no bounds or restrictions to his love. Always seek his face, hear his voice, and live his word out loud. If you have any questions that you would like to hear addressed on the podcast, then you can email diary@confessionsofaChristianSingleWoman.com. You can also follow me at the Confessions of a Christian Single Woman Facebook page and join the private Confessions of a Christian Single Woman community to continue the discussion. And now introducing that the podcast is now on YouTube. We are now on YouTube, so you can find the page at Confessions of a Christian Single Woman. You can catch all the episodes there on YouTube, as well as some additional teachings and episodes and things that I have done before. So you can definitely catch those as well. And so until next time, may the peace of the Lord go with you this week.